Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Highbury Squad's Lockdown Series, Episode 2. It's going to be interesting. Now, not sure why, but I think my mic may have been muted. But basically what I said was, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Highbury Squad's Lockdown Series, Episode 2. It's going to be interesting. Joining me this evening is my podcast brother from another mother, Mr. Kevin Campbell. Welcome, Super Kev.
Good to be back, Sophie.
I know you're ready for this one. And also one of our favourite friends and an epic Arsenal podcaster himself from the same old Arsenal Team Talk host, Mr. Dan Potts.
Yo, Soph, how you doing? Casey, good to see you. Always a pleasure to be on this podcast. I love this show. I love this channel and everything that you do. So thanks so much for having me on, man.
And happy birthday as well, by the way.
Oh, cheers, man. Cheers for the other day. I do appreciate that, man. Much love.
It was a big one, wasn't it?
Well, don't know, really. I mean, listen, it gets to the stage when you hit past 30, you're like, do you know what? None of them are big until the 40, is it? Do you know what I mean?
So, appreciate them, let me tell you. Hey, no, Dan, let me tell you something. Appreciate every single birthday, mate, I tell you. Treat it like Dresden, China, man.
All right, so
I love it.
So today's subject of the show, I'm just got double screens here. So today's show is, Arteta versus Emery. And let's just make this clear, everyone. This is not an Arteta out show. All we're doing is comparing statistics and data from both managers at this point in their Arsenal managerial careers. But before we do that, there has been some breaking news, and I think it would be remiss of us not to discuss it. Some people may think this is a big deal. Others think that it isn't such a big deal. But Nicolas Pepe has come out and made some comments about Mr. Mikel Arteta. And I would like to read it to you directly in terms of what Nicolas has said. And we'll go from there. Okay, guys, my goal is to play more, have a little more playing time. And he told Canal Plus this. A player who plays is happy. For me, I would like to play a little more to find a smile again. Key point. He, Arteta, wants me to be 100% focused during the 90 minutes of the match. Afterwards, I see during training that I will be a substitute the following weekend. And then he goes on to say, as we skip some of the pictures here, but the coach speaks to me. He also has assistants who are there for that. But it is frustrating for any player to be on the bench. A super sub role? ? The coach makes his choices. It's up to me to show him that I don't have that role. Right. Let's get down to the juice here, because there's no doubt that Pepe has had a mixed career, if you like, since he's joined Arsenal. He's definitely a polarizing figure. But I also think, as we discussed on the show last night, if you look at us going forward last season with Pepe, Laka and Oba playing together, we were much more prolific. And we'll get to that when we do the Arteta versus Emery stats a little bit later. Super Kev, I'm going to start with you first. As a player, you've been frustrated, left out. You've also been the superstar of teams where you've been the center of everything. Can you tell us about Pepe's comments and what you think about that?
I don't know what all the fuss is about, to be honest. I'll be brutally honest.
I knew he was going to say that, Dan.
No, I don't. And let me tell you why. Nicolas Pepe came to the club, record signing. He's expecting to play. So when he doesn't play, what do you expect him to say? Oh, I'm happy being on the bench. Of course he's not. He's going to say he expects to play more. 100%. 100% he expects to play more. So I don't know what the big hullabaloo, and they're just blowing this up because Arsenal, because of the result as well. They're making it out to be more than it actually is. Listen, Nicolas Pepe has the talent to start, yes. But Mikel Arteta wants him engaged more on both ends of the pitch. So as he quite rightly said, he has to convince the manager, prove to the manager that he can do it. That's the bottom line. Okay,
with that said, prove to the manager, he definitely was a pivotal player for us in the FA Cup, scored a wonder goal in the FA Cup. I think if you look at his stats, which as you know, I haven't been a Pepe fan at all, but when you look at his stats last season, they were actually better than aesthetically kind of what you see. Dan, what do you think about Pepe? I personally just want to put that out there. I love that he's come out and done this. I want to see players complain. I want to see them be hungry. But what I'm worried about, Dan, is a little bit of, is he saying this now because Arteta has lost his hold a little bit on the dressing room? Tell me what you think a little bit of Pepe's comments this evening.
Well, listen, of course we want to see him frustrated when he's not playing. Absolutely, you do. You don't want a player being happy to just sit on the bench and just kind of accept that you are not getting into that team. If you're a youngster coming through, like somebody like Joe Willock, right? He's come out and he said, hasn't he, that he's playing well, but he's trying to prove himself to the manager because he accepts at the moment he's not being picked, but all he can do is work hard in training. Now, I understand Joe Willock's comments. What I don't understand is some of the questions that I have, or some of the fans' responses to the questions I've been asking of Mikel Arteta of late. And one of them is about the likes of Nicolas Pepe. Now, I do not want Arteta out, right? Let's make that very, very clear. I do not want the manager out. But I believe as an Arsenal fan who wants to win football matches and wants to see us playing well, that I should be allowed, if I want to, as a fan, to ask some questions about whatever manager it is. And it doesn't matter whether it's Wenger, Emery or Arteta. If I'm seeing something that I don't like, I can ask questions, yeah? So I'm asking questions at the moment about why Willian is playing above Pepe. I'm asking questions why, if Lacazette can continue to play out of form, why Pepe isn't played down the centre, why Aubameyang isn't played down the centre. So I am quite happy for Pepe to come out and ask the same questions, because it would be hypocritical of me to say Pepe needs to keep quiet when I haven't been keeping quiet. I believe personally that Pepe's got a right to come out and say, do you know what? I personally believe that Nicolas Pepe has every single right to be wanting to play in this team at the moment when I look at that front three that is not firing. So when he's come out and said the manager's told me to do this, this and this, but at the moment I'm doing this and I'm still not getting picked because the players in front of me are not performing. Willian, I do not want to see him starting. I do not want to see Lacazette starting. I'm okay if you are going to keep confidence in a player. But when they're out of form and you just keep playing them and keep playing them and keep playing them and just say one day they will make it. You could be 8 games down the line and Nicolas Pepe's got no game time in 8 games. But what, 20 minutes every game, 10 minutes each game? So it's damaging not just the confidence of the players that are starting, but it's knocking the confidence of Nicolas Pepe sitting on the bench, thinking, how many more times are these guys going to fail and flop on their chances, not finish their dinner? I need to be on this pitch. And to be fair to the lad, when he has played on Thursdays, I don't think he's been too bad. I don't listen. Pepe's frustrating. He is frustrating. I don't believe he's a right-sided winger. I get frustrated when he's on that right-hand side. Love to see him playing more centrally. And late when he's been on the left, he's been a lot more dangerous in my opinion. But I can understand why he's getting frustrated. So when I look at that front three that isn't firing, so I'm glad he's come out and spoke up honestly. I don't believe he's lost the dressing room Arteta. Of course, there's a lot of question marks over it at the moment with the Ezra Ozil stuff and all the other stuff behind the scenes. But for me, Nicolas Pepe deserves to come out and have an explanation as to why he's not being picked, because the people in front of him ain't cutting the mustard, mate.
KC.
Yes.
I agree with Dan wholeheartedly. And I think his timing is perfect. And you know what? I actually think Pepe, I'm going to say in a very respectful way, he's a very benign player in that he doesn't complain. He hasn't moaned. We haven't heard him say anything negative in all the time he's been at Arsenal. We know that he's come with a very high price tag that comes with a lot of pressure, especially at his age. Right. We do know that he was very, popular, last season, and he was chosen last season and he was effective last season, even though, as I said at the beginning of the show, it may not have looked like he was playing great in the Cup and in the Europa League. I think that he's been great. So his timing, it's like he's been waiting for the opportunity for others to fail before him, before he's been able to come out and say this. How do you think Arteta's going to take him speaking out when a player of his ilk, and maybe not the stature in the club, because a lot of the times you have more senior players, more players with tenure that have been at clubs that have the balls to come out and say something. What do you think about that aspect?
I don't think that's a problem. Like I say, I'm not sure what all the hullabaloo is about. He's right to say it. I never disagreed with that at all. So I don't know why you'd be firing that stuff at me, Sophie. But
because you're a player, and I want to know, like, when someone speaks out like that, and maybe
but I answered. That's you answered me first, and I answered. But what I'm going to say is, Mikel Arteta has to this 2 weeks. I mentioned it last night. We did these 2 weeks. He's going to be watching a lot of the games, and he's going to be watching. He's going to be looking at the players. Because Dan's right, and we've said it many times, the team ain't playing well. But here's the funny thing. Nobody complained last week when we beat Manchester United. The team played very well. I never heard anybody after that say they don't want Willian to play, or they don't want El Neni to play, or they don't want Bellerin to play after beating Manchester United at Old Trafford. That was all right. He dropped 10 players in the week so Pepe and them guys can get minutes, which they done very well. Willock, Pepe, all these guys shined. But I don't think anybody could complain that Mikel Arteta kept the same team that beat Manchester United at Old Trafford. I just don't see it. I don't see where. And now all of a sudden, after the event, people are saying, "Oh, William shouldn't play and this one shouldn't play." Everybody in the team played crap. Let's have it right. The whole team were poor. Nobody came out of it with any credit. So it's all good saying, "Oh, Pepe should have started and this one should have done it after the event." I get that. I hear that all the time from fans. But nobody complained before the game by him keeping that same team that beat Manchester United, because that team should have had enough for Aston Villa. But we played so poorly. We beat ourselves. That's how bad we were. We even beat ourselves.
But with that same token, Dan, wouldn't you agree that the Manchester United game, probably our best performance so far this season, against a team, the weakest Manchester United team we've seen in the history of the Premier League? They're languishing in 15th position, but for the penalty, that probably would have ended with a 0-0 draw. And KC, with that same token too, which I'm firing this back to Dan, is that, you know, maybe fans are looking at this more as a 360 as opposed to just that Manchester United game, in that, yes, we played well against Manchester United. We should have beaten them 3 or 4-0. We got the penalty and scored, but we just proved again that we can't score a goal from open play. And in the last 4 games, we've scored 1 goal, and that was the penalty. So, Dan, don't you think that maybe fans are looking at this, and Pepe's looking at this, not just from that point of view, but from the point of view of since Fulham?
There's 2 things with this, isn't there? First of all, in the game and the way that the players are performing, and secondly on Pepe. Let's start with the players. Now, you can set up a team against Manchester United in that way all day long, as far as I'm concerned, because everybody was happy with the game. Everyone was happy with the masterclass. Everyone thought it was a masterclass in terms of tactician from Arteta. We were the better team. We were pressing. We were high intensity from the off. But we couldn't finish our dinner still. And we could have been 3 or 4-0 up easily in that game. And it took a penalty to score it. So that's the first thing. When everybody saw the team news on Sunday, they were quite happy because it's the team that's just beaten Manchester United. But you cannot set up the team in the same way against Aston Villa at home than you do at Man United away. And that's just my honest opinion of it. And there might not have been the same kind of understanding or kind of tactics to a T. But what I was seeing there was very similar, from kind of lackadaisical, not really too bothered about the fact that Aston Villa, show of arrogance, I would say. We saw Aston Villa hit us in the 40th second. It was like, okay, this game, that's a warning. This is going to be nothing like Manchester United. They were doing what we were doing to Manchester United. They would not give us 2 seconds on the ball, which is credit to Aston Villa, by the way. But Pepe's got to be careful here, because he's coming out and he's saying, you need to play me. So if Arteta's going to give him the nod and say, okay, play, he's got to perform. So it's hard for Pepe, this one. You know, he's come out. He needs to either be confident to know that he's going to hit the ground running when he does get his go inside. Otherwise, the critics are going to come on his back and say, well, this is why Arteta wasn't picking you, mate. So it's a real hard one for Pepe at the moment. You know, he's going to have to come into this side and perform if he does get the nod.
But Dan, don't you think him coming out, he's backing himself, isn't he?
Absolutely.
He's backing himself.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Also, I think, is it coincidental that, Laka and Oba are looking miserable and unhappy, and it just coincides with their kind of, their partner in crime, Pepe, from last season. Casey, you must have been in those shoes where you're like, damn, this is my partner, this is who I want to play with up front. Of course, you're a professional and you do your job and you get stuck into the game and you execute what the coach wants. But is there any coincidence, and has it happened to you in your career where you're like, why rock the boat when we're rolling? And no,
of course not. You're a professional footballer. It doesn't matter. Whoever gets picked, you've got to go out there and perform. There is no nonsense when it comes to play, especially at Arsenal. My goodness, it's hard enough to get on the pitch, right? Let alone worry about, oh, my mate's not playing. No, you've got to forget that. You've got to look after number one, and you've got to look after the result and how you perform. That is the name of the game. So I get it, and I get fans listen, Arsenal are frustrating at the moment. And Sophie, you made a really good point earlier on. You said Pepe's performed in the cup last season, etc. But you said earlier on this season that you want us to do better in the league. Yes. So if we want to do better in the league, we have to consistently perform. And that's what I said to you. But we are not consistent in the league. We're still up and down and on the roller coaster going crazy. So Arteta wants, and we're going to address this later, he wants consistency. But I could tell you this much, and it'd be nice to hear what Dan thinks. I think that performance absolutely shocked Mikel Arteta. It shocked him because for a while now, we've lost games, etc., but we've never capitulated. We capitulated on Sunday.
Dan?
We did. Kev's spot on, man. Everything he's just said there, to be fair. I think when you look at what we did on Sunday, the reason it shocked him is because he has come out in an interview every game and has been exactly the same apart from on Sunday. And that says it all for me. Arteta's come out and said, I don't know what you want me to say, but this can't happen again. And I've not heard him say that yet. And we've lost games. Don't get me wrong. We've lost games. But the way that we lost was the shock for him. And I think that in a way, this is going to either damage the dressing room or damage the players, or it is going to lift the players, because Arteta has got that job now to say, if that ever happens again, none of you expect to go out on the pitch, because that is not what I want to be seeing week in, week out from Arsenal Football Club. This just doesn't happen at Arsenal. And I feel like that is the message that he needs to get across. Whether or not that will be kind of delivered by the dressing room is another story, which we'll see hopefully after the international break. But I just want to see solutions now, Soph. I don't care what that solution is, but Arteta needs to react. That cannot come out again with that front three missing chances like that. They need to be told, because how is it that somebody like Bellerin, who, okay, has been a bit better the last couple of games, is getting ahead of Maitland-Niles every single week? Maitland-Niles must be thinking, why didn't I go to Wolves? I can't even get on a game on a Thursday because Cedric plays. I might as well have gone to Wolves. He's not getting a chance. You've got Willian consistently being poor. Pepe, we've just mentioned. You've got the likes of Joe Willock, who sees Eddie Nketiah getting on the side every single game and not performing, but Joe Willock can't get ahead of Granit Xhaka in the side. I just can't understand some of these question marks. I look at Rob Holding, again, another player who has improved over the last few games under Mikel Arteta. If you honestly believe that Maitland-Niles and William Saliba are worse footballers than Bellerin and Holding, I would challenge that, because we've not seen them play enough. So I want to see these guys. I want to see them in the team. I want to see solutions. They might not work, Soph. It might go wrong. Yeah?
Agree.
But try it and see what happens.
Agree. And we spoke last night, KC and I, about, he's going to have to tinker when he gets back. He's tinkered with the system, but he needs to now tinker with the players in the system that he wants to play. And that's the key. He can't keep putting square pegs in round holes. And if it doesn't work, Steve-O, I put this comment up because this leads up into our next conversation. Alex Ferguson took 4 years, but he also won a European trophy at Aberdeen, right? I mean, Arteta was an assistant coach at Manchester City, and yes, they achieved great things, and he did great things working with Pep Guardiola. And Raheem Sterling said it himself that he wouldn't be the player he is today without the coaching of Mikel Arteta. So I think one of the things with Arsenal, though, is here's what we've done. It's like, you've gone out, you've met the hot chick or the hot guy, and you've had an amazing weekend and you think, oh my God, this is the love of my life. And this is it. I've hit the jackpot, Casey, Dan. I mean, this is everything.
Boy.
And then you realize that instead of love, it's actually lust, you know? And so then you get into that bit of grey water where you're like, I'm not sure. And I think what happened was we won the FA Cup. We all fell in love and we beat Liverpool in the Community Shield. You know, beating City and Chelsea along the way, once again replicating 2017 to win the FA Cup. And then maybe, you know, you get into real life, Premier League, and you realize that it's not that easy, you know, and maybe it, you know, the love part has been forgotten by some of the Arsenal fans, and we're moving into a real situation. Casey?
Well, what I'll say, Sophie, is it's the girl that you, or the guy that you go out with now and again, and you have a great time every time, and then you get living together.
Yeah.
The day to day is a lot different than you know, meeting up at a weekend and having a great time and that. Listen, and this is what the football club have to do. This is what Mikel Arteta is trying to do. He's trying to get that consistency into the team. It's going to take time, because you know what? We're going to cover it a bit later, but we're kind of touching on it now.
We are. We're going into it now, because I'm going to read some stuff out to you. Okay, so here's what's happening right now.
Hold on.
Okay,
so let me get in. Let me get in on this.
Get in, Casey.
The players who we know are not consistent are consistently inconsistent. They can do it 1 week, but they can't do it 1 week, 2 week, 3 week, 4 week, 5 week. They can't do it. They've proven that. They've had opportunities to do it. We've seen Mikel Arteta bring some players in that are looking like, actually, do you know what? We've got a little bit of a spine now and all that kind of things. But the supporting cast is not good enough. And if any Arsenal fan tells me they think that the supporting cast are good enough, they might as well, do you know what? They might as well go and jump in the River Thames, because the supporting cast has never been good enough under Wenger, under Emery, and that little bit of Freddie. So they're not going to be as good now under Mikel Arteta. He's helped improve maybe a little, but they still show the signs of up, down, on the big loop. Us fans want to get off. We want to get off because we don't like it, but we can't.
Okay, so here's where we're at right now, and this is going to lead into our next conversation. And I think we all agree that Pepe has talent. He's been a bit inconsistent, but he definitely deserves his shot now after this international break. So I was listening to Hugh Wizzy the other day, and I was also looking at some stats in terms of us. Goals scored, we're 13th. Shots on target, we're 14th. Key passes, we're 17th. Now, here's where I want to go. Against Manchester United, we had 2 shots on target. One was the penalty. It's shocking. I mean, Aubameyang didn't even have a proper shot on goal at home against Aston Villa at the weekend. I think we'll all agree this as we go into the Arteta versus Emery discussion. And just remember, guys, we're just comparing stats so far. This is not and will not be an Arteta out show. We are just talking, right? So going into this, one of the things, you know, that I think has been evident is we had to shore up the back. And we've looked at Liverpool as the model a little bit. They got their Fab 3. They were still inconsistent at the back. We saw Karius destroy their chances in the Champions League final. They made horrendous mistakes at the back until they got Virgil van Dijk and Alisson. Some people can go on and argue about Emi and Leno. Stop the madness. It's done. Emi's gone. Leno's our goalkeeper, right? We have Runnison as our backup. But we also went and got Gabriel, who someone just put in the chat, and I've lost it now, but he said, Gabriel, I don't believe in Gabriel. Gabriel's overrated. Gabriel has been a savior already this season. I know. And so this is the thing. This is what I love about fans. Everyone has their opinions, and sometimes they're agreeable and sometimes they're polarizing. But like Liverpool, we kind of started off hot at the front. And when we look at the stats here in Arteta versus Emery, you'll see that it does shift, and it does follow the Liverpool story a little bit, in that We had the attack. I think under Emery, and I'll get the stats up for you guys. Under Emery, in their 38 games, Emery's Arsenal scored 74 goals and Arteta's 58. But with that token, you're also looking at the defense in that Emery's Arsenal conceded 47 and Arteta's has conceded 35. So, Kev, I'm going to start with you here in the biggest area where the argument is right now. A lot of Arsenal fans are happy to see how we've shored up the back. There's no doubt. Prior to the weekend's game against Aston Villa, we were the best team in terms of conceding goals in the Premier League. So, as a striker as well, you're happy with those 74 goals, gung-ho, we're off to the races. But also the way we were conceding against Emery was alarming. So,
yeah, but are you happy? I don't think it as a player. Let me tell you this, Sophie. Yeah, we want to score 74 goals, but we don't want to concede all them goals at the other end. Because let me tell you something. Under Emery, there was alarming problems in the centre of the pitch, both in midfield and defence. What we saw teams could drive a bus through the centre of our midfield and defence and attack us. Even though we took the lead and we were a lot more offensive, you can't win games by not having a good defence. So it's just how a manager builds his team. Does he build it from the front or does he build it from the back? Emery built it kind of from the front, wanted to attack and utilize the attacking players, which is great. But it's very frustrating when you go 1 or 2 goals up. Remember the Watford game? We're 2-0 up at Watford. And they come back and really should have beat us. Could you remember that one? Mm-hmm. A lot of people have short memories. A lot of people have forgotten that game. That told us everything about Emery's Arsenal. Yeah, free-flowing, good going forward. But you know what? We hung on for dear life at the other end of the pitch. Arteta's doing it a different way. He's building from the back. Same way, similar to George Graham. You've got to build from the back. Get that back line and midfield strong. Get them consistent. Then you can build from the attack. And you know what? The attack might suffer a bit, but eventually it will come.
Okay.
Because you've got a good foundation.
So let me read these stats out before Dan jumps in here, okay? Because I've got some more. After 26 Premier League games, and these stats I'm reading are after the Leicester loss. Wins, Arteta 12, Emery 15. Draws, Arteta 6, Emery 5. Losses, Arteta 8, Emery 6. Win percentage, Arteta 46%, Emery 58%. Goals scored, I gave you that 43 goals for Arteta, 53 for Emery. Conceded, 28 Arteta, 37 Emery. Shots, Arteta 247, Emery 317. Possession, Arteta 52.1%, Emery 57.6%. And I can give you the stats in. Do you want to do after 38 games, or do you want to focus on the Premier League first? Because I've got those two.
You could do as many stats as you want, my dear.
Because your opinion's not going to change.
No, it's not. But give the stats, and then you see.
Okay.
And this is where stats do lie.
Okay, so this is what Pepe does too. You know, his stats look good, but aesthetically, he may not look as good. Here we go, Dan. 38 games in all competitions. Arteta 21, Emery 23. Draws, Arteta 8, Emery 6. Losses, Arteta 9, Emery 9. Win percentage, Arteta 55%, Emery 61%. Goals scored, Arteta 58, Emery 74. Conceded, Arteta 35, Emery 47. Shots, Arteta 376, Emery 481. Possession, 51.8% to Arteta's Arsenal and 59.21% to Emery. Dan, you look at the stats, and on paper, you know, we're not saying that Emery's a better manager. We're just saying
one stat that's missing.
The FA Cup win. Okay, fine.
No. There's one stat that's missing. What did they win? Simple.
We got to a European final, which hasn't happened since Wenger.
But we won nothing.
All right,
You've got to win.
Let me get Dan's point of view on the stats and what he thinks on the stats versus what we're seeing now, and then we'll get to trophies.
Listen, I'm probably the worst person to bring in on stats because they drive me insane. Yeah, they drive me insane. The reason they drive me insane is because stats mean that Jimmy Traore is a better player than Dennis Bergkamp because one of them won the Champions League and the other one didn't. So that means that Jimmy Traore must be fantastic. Mustafi and Ozil won the World Cup. They must be better than Van Dijk and Kevin De Bruyne. I don't understand stats. I've never liked it. I've never liked what happens with who's won what and how many games people have won in their career. All I will say between the two managers before we come back to KC, because I think he brings up a great point, is this. When Unai Emery took over Arsenal, we were in a better position. And the reason I say that is this. We had just lost a manager of greatness with a dressing room that was still an okay, happy-ish dressing room. We had Nacho Monreal still. We had Koscielny still. We had Petr Cech still. We had Aaron Ramsey still. We had a better side, in my opinion, when Unai Emery took over. And he went on a 22-game unbeaten run with that side that some would say was an okay side that was good going forward, but always needed to score 3 or 4 goals to take 3 points because it would probably concede a few at the back. All right. When Arteta took over, it was a down dressing room. Players had down tools on the previous manager in Baku, which was clear to see on the pitch. And Arteta had to try and lift that dressing room ASAP. And we saw it pretty quickly. We did. We saw it in the Manchester United game at home when Mesut Ozil decided to turn into the likes of the Kevin De Bruynes of this world. And we saw it in the games where we had just lost, which normally we would have been embarrassed by. Chelsea at home. Should have won that game. Run out of gas in the last 10 and obviously lost the game 2-1. So we started to see them lifted there. So that is why, for me, I have a lot of time for what Arteta has done since he has come to Arsenal. That does not mean, however, Soph, that I am not going to ever question Mikel Arteta because he's now the new Messiah. Yeah, he did amazing what he won. He was fantastic in the cup run with the FA Cup. He lifted that dressing room. He knew what it meant to get that players over the line against big teams. But in the league, I'm afraid to say it's a totally different story, and it's something that we need to improve on consistently. I'm going to let KC go back to this now because I think it's an important point.
No, Dan, I think you're right, because what we're talking about is the striving to be consistent. And the cup is totally different than the league. You know, like we joke about, you know, an ex-girlfriend or whatever, and, you know, seeing each other every now and again, and it's all great. And then when you live together, you know, you see everybody, you see warts and all, don't you? You see all the makeup come off and all that kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? As far as I'm concerned, Mikel Arteta has had to pick up Emery's rubbish.
Wenger's rubbish. Let's not just put this on Emery.
No. Hold on. This isn't Wenger, Emery, and Arteta.
Oh, we can't mention him. We can't mention this.
No. This, you gave stats on Emery and Arteta. So now we're going to speak about Emery and Arteta.
Hold on, let me pull up my Wenger stats.
Here's what he had to deal with. He had to deal with the 5 captain nonsense. He had to deal with an unmotivated squad. He had to deal with the Xhaka incident, especially because that divided fans and that was bad for the football club, etc. He had to sort out the defense. He had to sort out the midfield. He had to sort out the attack, trying to get the best out of Aubameyang, Laka, and Pepe. He had all that to sort out. The guy even caught COVID-19. There was a lockdown. So he's had all of that. And he's still not even been there a year. He's still not been, he's still not been in charge 1 year. But yet, he's put a trophy on the side. And nobody can tell me you haven't seen, like I said before at Man United, you've seen the snapshot of what it could look like. Wow. And this is with players that are not even his. But what has to happen is he's got to get ruthless and he's got to get backed. He's got to change some of those key areas as well to his players. Because if he don't, he's going to be swimming up against the tide.
Okay, so let me throw this at you guys. Emery inherited a broken culture. That person who inherited the job from Wenger inherited the same kind of mess that Sir Alex Ferguson, say, left at Manchester United, in that to follow an icon is probably one of the toughest things to do, right? Mikel Arteta is lucky that he didn't follow the Wenger era, because Wenger is such a legend. He gave us some of the greatest football memories of our lives, as did the previous generational manager, George Graham. So anyone stepping into his shoes is going to be judged by greatness. Look what's happened to Manchester United since Sir Alex Ferguson left. And it might be that Mikel Arteta is still not our guy to pull us into the future, because we do not know that yet. All we know is that in the FA Cup, he delivered something unbelievable. The team did, because we're really good at one-off games, focusing on one game and pulling the players together and making them believe that this is the game, you're going to win this game. Consistently over 38 games in the Premier League, we've struggled to do that, right? So Emery inherited a mess too. Now, let's not forget, right, when we went on that 22 unbeaten run, I don't care who's in front of you, you still have to beat them. And yes, there were quite a few draws in there, but there were also wins against Leicester, against West Ham. There were some really good performances, but there were also some lucky results. I think we'll all agree on that, right? And let's also be honest that the Ozil problem started under Emery. So he had already inherited Wenger rights that he was battling too in the dressing room. To suggest that Arteta's inherited Emery's mess, no. Both managers inherited the Wenger Gazidis last few seasons era mess. And that's the truth of it. And unfortunately for Emery, he wasn't personable. He wasn't very well liked. He couldn't put his arm. He couldn't communicate with the players. Tactically, at times, it felt like he was lost and inept. And yes, towards the end, he put us in a position where we were at the worst point in the Premier League for years and years and years. But let me throw this back at you guys too then. Arteta took over in December. And yes, he had to fight COVID, and we had the life-changing experience that we've all gone through. But he had time to get us into the Champions League. There was a time, Dan and KC, where we were right there and we could have qualified. And you can't blame that on Emery. You blame that
Emery had the same. What you're talking about?
Yeah, but he finished fifth. He finished fifth. Okay, hold on.
He never qualified. So what?
Yeah, but we ended up finishing 8th with Arteta. Dan, answer my question, Dan, and then we'll get to Super Kev. Because to me, Arteta still had, and again, I'm a believer in Arteta. I'm a huge supporter of Arteta. But he too had the opportunity to get us the Champions League football, and he didn't. And he too inherited the same plays that Emery did from Wenger. And granted, Emery had his buys as well, but at the same time, they both failed. Dan?
You're spot on in terms of them both failing. They did both fail, because we should have had much, much, much more of a chance of getting into the Champions League. I think under Emery, I was like, look, we're either going to win the Europa League or we're going to get top 4. Hopefully we get both. We end up getting neither. So I can't forgive Emery for that. He failed in Baku, and the players down tools on him. He lost the dressing room. When you lose the dressing room, you have to go. So I was definitely Unai Emery out, because personally the dressing room was done. And after Baku, he probably should have gone, because it literally capitulated as far as I was concerned in terms of the league, losing to Everton's, Leicester's and Wolves all in a row, Southampton's. And I was like, we need to get this guy gone. It's gone to pieces. With Arteta, the one thing that I still believe that has let him down and is still currently letting him down is he is picking the Arsene Wenger players. And I don't want to bring Arsene Wenger into the equation as a manager, because I think we all know the first 10 years were outstanding. The last 10 were okay, and in some respects pretty poor. I think personally what would be happening here is both managers have trusted these Arsene Wenger players, which are not good enough. And we are still seeing them in the side. And this is where I do not understand Arteta's mentality, because he has apparently offered Mustafi a contract. He wanted Granit Xhaka to stay because he was on his way to Hertha Berlin. Please stay. David Luiz makes absolutely dreadful mistakes, gives him another contract. Keeps playing Bellerin even when he's poor. Keeps playing Lacazette even when he's poor. You can take Mesut Ozil And that is it. All the others are Arsene Wenger players that are still playing currently pretty much week in, week out in the first team. Now, let me ask you this, and I don't like to compare us to Liverpool because Liverpool back then, it can be a completely different 5 years that they've had to the 5 years that we've had, because I believe they're backing Klopp with the money and the board are getting the right recruitment right. And I'm not so sure that we are. But let me ask you this. If Jurgen Klopp was still managing Liverpool with a team of Karius in goal, Mamadou Sakho at the back, Joe Allen and Lucas, Balotelli and Origi up top, do you really believe Liverpool fans would be saying, Klopp ain't very good, is he? Klopp, I don't really understand Klopp. Or is it the players that have been letting them down for the last 5 years? Because that's what's happening currently at Arsenal. Every single week, Xhaka hasn't had a good game. That's funny. Mustafi hasn't had a good game. Kolasinac's been poor. David Luiz is poor unless he's in a back three. Lacazette can't finish his dinner. Bellerin's been poor and inconsistent. These are all Arsene Wenger players that have been poor since 2016. So why are we still confused here? Why are we sitting there believing that Arteta is going to be this absolute magician? That's the only reason I've got to give him some stick for at the moment. Currently, change things because
But
these
Dan,
players are
why
letting you
weren't
down.
we as forgiving with Emery then? Why are we so forgiving with Arteta and we are not as forgiving with Emery? You know, because we won. If we hadn't won the FA Cup final, do you think Arsenal fans would be this forgiving right now?
Yeah, you can't say if we didn't.
No,
we did.
It's a fair question. It doesn't matter.
No, it isn't, because we did. What are you talking about if we didn't? We did.
But the point is that he's been put on this pedestal.
He hasn't. He's not on no pedestal. He's on no pedestal. He's done. He's done something. What? Who's put him on a pedestal?
Arsenal fans. Ask Dan what feedback he gets on social media when criticizing Arteta. Are you serious right now? It's true.
Yeah, I am. He's not on no pedestal for me. He's not on no pedestal as far as I'm concerned. I think to myself, as you said, you want Arsenal to be more consistent. The whole fan base is the same, wants the team to be more consistent, don't they? You mentioned, hold on, let me answer, because you can let Dan say if he say, let me have my say, Sophie.
Get my samurai sword out.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, pull it out, get it out. So let me have my say. Right now, look, Emery had the best opportunity, as far as I'm concerned, to get the team into that Champions League. Here's the reason why. Last 8 games of the season, if we beat Palace and or Brighton at home, we qualify. He plays a weakened team against Crystal Palace and we end up getting done. Granit Xhaka comes into his own. We're beating Brighton 1-0 at home, pulls the guy back in the box, 1-1. Next minute, we're in big trouble and we don't make it. As well as, fair enough, we go to the Europa League final. But what you got to remember is this, Sophie. That's 2 years ago. That's 2 years less wear and tear off the body of some of those players. They're fitter, they're better then. Now, there's a bit more wear and tear on them. And then, now Arteta, if you remember when Arteta took over, the players were running out of steam. Why? Because the demands that he wants from the team in order to press and be up in people's faces was too demanding on them. And after 60, 65 minutes, we run out of gas. And this is the reason why Arteta's got a certain way. Arteta's got a certain way how he wants to do things. And I think winning the FA Cup proved that his way works. That's all. But it's on one-off games, you're right. But in order to get consistent, he's got to get his players in. Because as you quite rightly said, Sophie, the same players that Wenger had is the same players that Emery had, is the same players that Freddie had for a little bit, and now Arteta has. All of those people, they've proved, what have we been under everyone? Inconsistent.
And
I think as well.
Go on, Dan.
Sorry,
go on,
I think as well.
Go on, mate.
Looking at the two, if you look at Unai Emery and Arteta, you can see what Arteta is trying to do, but the players at the moment, in terms of Arteta's team selection, are letting him down. Unai Emery, I felt, towards the end of his kind of reign, was clueless tactically. And the reason I say that is because I look at the mold and style of player that Arteta is picking, and you understand where it is. He's not playing loads and loads and loads of players out of position. He might ask them to take one or two goes at right wing or right wing back, or like Saka at left wing back, who can actually be okay to play there.
Sorry,
but
I had to put that one up.
No, you're cool. I just read it. But you look at what Unai Emery was doing with a player like Lucas Torreira, who was bought to anchor the midfield and was played in Eden Hazard, Kevin De Bruyne position. We can't understand what that is tactically. He was continuously making mistakes all over the pitch tactically. And I've not seen that so much with Mikel Arteta. We're going to see him be naive. We're going to see him make mistakes. He's a young coach. Absolutely we are. But what I will say about it is he has not lost the dressing room yet, and touch wood he doesn't. Emery lost the dressing room. So that's why, so when you say why are fans putting him on a pedestal, and you're right, some of them are, by the way. But I feel personally like the reason that they are giving him more time is because we have not seen this dressing room capitulate. Now, the worrying signs are there. He's still playing the same players that Arsene Wenger was. He's made the capitulation first game against Aston Villa. He needs to be, and I said this on Twitter, and everyone went mental thinking I wanted Arteta out after 3 games. I said the next 3 games are going to be huge after the international break because they're Leeds, Wolves, and that lot up the road, right? Those 3 games in the league are huge. And the reason I want to see changes, I want to see solutions, is because I cannot stand to see this same 11, and that same front 3 in particular, playing those 3 games consistently while we have solutions staring him in the face on the bench. And that for me is what I want to see. And if I don't see those changes, then I will start to ask further questions about Mikel Arteta's longer stay at Arsenal Football Club, because I need to see changes now. So that was what I was saying on Twitter. I wasn't telling people I wanted Arteta out after 3 games. That's absolute nonsense. But I am going to ask questions. So in comparing the two, unless he loses the dressing room like Emery did, I've got to back this manager. I have to.
Okay, so I'd like to read a quote to you guys, and it comes, it's off the back of Moussa Valley's point too, in terms of consistency as well. And it's from Martin Keown, who did an interview with the Daily Express, good friend of Super Kev. So here we go. And I'd like your feedback on this. Martin Keown said a few days ago that Arteta needs to stop making the same mistakes that cost Emery his job. And I'd like to know what you guys think about this in terms of changing systems too much. And has he? They keep changing from one system to another, and they did this with Emery. That's what I would like to see now. Same pictures, same triangles, same movements, same partnerships, the same relationships. If you keep changing it, you don't find a rhythm. And that's something that I found very successful in teams I played in. It was like putting an old pair of slippers on for a game and everything was there. Super Kev, I'm going to start with you because I'm sure you've been involved in teams where there's been a lot of tinkering. And Emery took the crown from Claudio Ranieri as the tinker man. What do you think about Martin Keown's comments?
It's everything we've been talking about, Sophie, to be honest, about consistency. The consistency isn't just on the pitch. The consistency is in team selection, how you play, and then hopefully it will come out in your performance. But if at home you're all over the place, it's going to affect how you perform when you go to work. It's just the way it is. Now, Martin makes some really good points about the same pattern, the same people, the same team, so everybody understands what is required. I truly believe Arteta wants to play a certain way. I just don't think he has the pieces right now in order to do that. That's all.
I find it interesting, though, Dan, that we've said that about maybe 4 managers now. Towards the end, Wenger didn't have the players to put the pieces together to really mount a challenge again for the Premier League. Emery didn't have the players because he inherited a mess from Wenger in the Gazidis days, and he didn't have the players to play his way. And you're talking about a manager that won 3 Europa Leagues. I'm sorry, it's not easy to win 3 European finals. He also finds himself second right now in La Liga, okay, which is irrelevant to the Premier League, but we're talking about the managerial experience and their prowess as coaches. And then you go into Freddie, who I don't think we can count Freddie because he inherited a triple-double mess that was just a complete disaster. And Freddie was a legend that was just trying to put a Band-Aid over a really bad problem. And now you have Arteta with the same. So it seems like we keep talking about the same thing over and over again, but the players are the Achilles heel of the club, if you like. We've had how many transfer windows to deal with these messes? And Edu is doing his best, and he hasn't been there long enough. We've talked about 2-3 windows until this team becomes an image of Mikel Arteta. I said on the show last night, the greatest teams become an image of their manager. Jurgen Klopp, Liverpool; Pep, Bayern Munich; Barcelona, Manchester City; Antonio Conte, Juventus, Chelsea. There are other examples too. And until Mikel Arteta does get his players, we're not going to see the true truth of him. But we can't hold him to a higher standard and say that if we're going to attack Emery and we're going to attack Wenger during the last few years of his career. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying, and I think he's spot on. Sorry, Kev, was you going to come in there, mate?
No, yeah, you talk. I'll speak after.
I was I was literally gonna come into this because I feel like the poor recruitment at this football club has left all of the managers in pretty much disarray. I'm talking about previously after Arsene Wenger, by the way, because our recruitment has been terrible, which has been terrible on top of it. And we've seen the transfer windows be so poor, and this was why I was excited now and want to see some stability, because we're finally allowing 2 football men to do the footballing business in Arteta and Edu. We're not having any more Raúls in bed with agents. We're not having any more Ivan Gazidis in this club. So I'm excited for our future transfer windows as long as we're backed and the funds are there, because I think they're going to get more right. I saw a fantastic article, and the reason it was a fantastic article was because I was wetting myself laughing to start with the title, and it was comparing this team with Arsenal's Invincibles. So I laughed at it. I thought, I ain't reading that. I
read it,
right?
You continued reading it.
And the reason is, and I'll tell you why it was a great article, because it wasn't comparing the quality, because it would have been obvious. There was no point reading it. He was comparing the characters, and I got to the end of it and I thought, do you know what? He's spot on. And the reason he was spot on was because what he was doing was comparing it in terms of leadership and characters. Now, some would say that Kieran Tierney is probably not technically as good as Ashley Cole as a left back yet, but he's got the character or potential leadership qualities to be a leader on the pitch in that position. He brought up Gabriel being the Sol Campbell of that team. He brought up Thomas Partey being the Gilberto or the Vieira of that team, or Aubameyang being the Thierry Henrys. And it started to come to me, actually, hang on a minute, this is making a bit more sense now. Then he brought up the Sakas and Martinellis that could potentially be your Freddies and your Perez's. He said, what we're missing currently are the most underrated Invincibles. He mentioned Leno and said that he was not Germany's number 1, just like Jens Lehmann wasn't. And he said that Hector Bellerin is not a Lauren.
Lauren.
Yep. We have got no Lauren. He said we have got no Gilberto Silva and we have got no Colo Torre. And I thought, do you know what? I've read this article and I laughed at the geezer. I thought, who is this guy trying to compare us to them? And it made sense because it was nothing to do with the quality. It was to do with characters in this dressing room. So you have to sit there and understand where Arteta and Edu are coming from, who have both played at a very high level and know what it means to play for the shirt and wear an Arsenal shirt and be a part of Arsenal. They have got the characters in that they believe is the right for moving us forward. And I have to stick with that. These players, I tell you what, if you left them outside your house and said free to a good home, they would not still be there the next day. Nobody wants Kolasinac to give him 100k a week. Nobody wants to give David Luiz or Mustafi a long-term contract on 100k a week. Socrates, Ozil on 350. You can't get rid of these players. So what we have to do is find the solutions to get ahead of them. I'm with Kev. I think Arteta is crying to pay 4-3-3 like he was learnt under Pep, but he hasn't got the tools to do it. So he's had to go with 3 at the back, and it's worked to win him a cup. So therefore, he's had to try and stick with that to say, this is where we're going to try and play to give some stability. And the reason I'm now asking questions is because it's not currently working with those players, and there are solutions there. But I read the article, laughed at it, and afterwards thought, you know what? I actually really enjoyed that, and I totally understand where he's getting from. We're looking at the right characters there to move this team forward, and I can't say that he's too far off.
That's brilliant. No, thanks, Dan. Great.
Yeah, but also, Dan, let me just add to that, because we mentioned the recruitment side. And if we're honest, under Arsene Wenger and under Unai Emery, What did we always complain about? Centre back and a centre midfielder.
Yeah.
So did they have the opportunity to get somebody in? Centre back and centre midfielder. That's
Yeah.
what I'm asking. Now, of course they did, but they didn't. As you said, Torreira came in. We thought he's going to be the answer. He was being played at number 10 and then number 8 at some stage, attacking midfield. So that's not the player's fault. That's the manager's fault, isn't it? To play a holding midfielder who's a dog higher up the pitch. To me, that don't make sense. So again, who's it left to? Finally, Arteta and Edu get a centre back and they get a world-class centre midfielder.
It's amazing to me how we laud Arteta when we beat City and Chelsea in the FA Cup and we win in the final, and now he doesn't have all the tools. And I agree. I'm just playing devil's advocate here a little bit.
There's no
guys.
devil's advocate to play. We've already explained. On a one-off game, game, we could beat. But
well, it's a one-off game over a tournament, a period of a tournament too. Like we do.
Of course it is.
Right,
but it's a one-off game.
I
in
agree.
The league, it's different.
I know that I'm the one that brought up that comment to you. But my point is,
so come on, let me hear the point.
Okay, we can't laud him and then say now in the Premier League where it's game after game after game for not achieving the same goals. Listen, Kevin, we're going to be judged. Arsenal Football Club are going to be judged by their Premier League form, and Arteta's record currently in the Premier League is poor, and we all know that is because we have Deadwood. Someone put Deadwood FC in the chat, and we all completely agree with that. But when we were beating City and beating Chelsea
in the cup,
we're all like, oh, whatever. So
we're happy. Of course we are.
I'm twisting this to you. So he needs to make adjustments. As a coach, you need at some point to be ballsy and make adjustments. For example, Pepe and Willock and Saka, the way they play together in the Europa League, Willock ends up not even getting in the squad for the game against Aston Villa. Look at all these other teams utilizing their young players. If you don't trust the Deadwood that you inherited and they're going to maybe end up making you lose your job down the line, why not give some of these other players a chance?
Because there's only 8 games gone. And now he has to assess everything. Because for the first time, he's seen the team capitulate. There is a difference. He left them players out on that pitch. And he watched them suffer. And he learned a lot more about them players. I'll tell you that much, Sophie. Dan.
I agree with you.
He learned a lot. So now they go away on international duty. I'm sure he's watching videos. He's assessing who's doing what. And he's going to have to come up with a solution. This is all part of being a manager. And we know he's going to make mistakes. But the key is, go on, Soph.
Let me just twist that a little bit. So I get that and I understand what you're saying. But with that same token, for example, you know, he has to, at some point, trust these other players, right? If he doesn't trust the ones who are in front of him and are not performing, why does he
trust them? He trusts them.
So he trusts Lacazette right now.
Yeah, of course he does. But they let him down. This is what I'm saying.
They let him down against.
This is what I'm saying.
Liverpool. They let him down against we've lost 4 times. 4 losses
this is what I'm
already.
saying. Sophie, are you going to let me speak?
Yes.
Are you going to let me speak?
Yeah.
This is what I'm saying. 4 wins, 4 defeats in the league. Not good enough. We just got our asses whooped by Aston Villa, who lost their last 2 games and conceded how many goals? What was it? 7 or 8 they conceded? Not good enough. So what is the manager going to do? You're talking about giving youngsters right now is the time to assess it, and we're going to see what he does out of international break. That's all we can do.
Okay.
We can't. It's no point us going crazy about giving people a chance. When we're in international break, we have to see what he does coming out of it.
Thank you, Off the Ball podcast. I appreciate that comment right there. And yeah, thank you.
We love each other, really. We're just passionate, aren't we? We're passionate.
I mean, look, I love it. The gang in chat are having a good time too. And there's been so many great comments and questions. So let me flip this to you guys as we close. You're listening to the Highbury Squad. This is our lockdown series, episode 2. We'll be coming to you tomorrow night with another character that's going to be interesting. Someone that Dan might know, Mr. Lee Judges. And Casey and Mr. Lee Judges will be sharing 5 things emulating their previous show, what they would do with Arsenal right now. So you won't want to miss that. That's at 4 o'clock.
Only
UK
5.
time.
Only 5 things.
Only 5. Yeah, there could be 55, but 5.
I'm sure it will end up at 55 by the time we're done with it, Dan.
You know
So, Dan,
that, so.
a lot of folks in chat are saying, if he picks the same team against Leeds, I'm going to lose my mind, right? I think there's going to be Arsenal fans that are going to still be forgiving for the Leeds and Wolves game. He's already lost to Jose Mourinho and Tottenham in the North London derby after Project Restart. I think that's the game that if we lose, and if we lose terribly, right? Again, I'm just kind of weighing it all up here for you guys to give me your opinion. I think that's when wait, you'll get your turn, Dan, first. So, Dan, I know that you, for one, are going to lose your mind maybe a little bit if he picks the same team for Leeds, if that evolves to Wolves, and then a loss to Tottenham. If we beat Leeds, beat Wolves, get a result, but lose to Spurs, talk me through what I've just, the football pie I've just served at you.
Well, listen, I don't care who is playing and I don't care who our manager is. I never accept losing to that lot down the road. I don't care. Yeah. I don't care how well we're playing. I don't care who's on fire. I don't care how many injuries we got. If you're playing with that shirt on, if you're playing for the Arsenal, you will never accept losing that football match. And Casey knows exactly what I'm talking about. But this is why these next 3 games are so important, Soph, because we need to find some momentum going into that game. I don't care that everyone says, oh, it's only Spurs. I will not accept losing to them. I won't. So we have to make sure that the 2 games beforehand, we have got and brushed off the cobwebs and started again, because we need to be in form for that game, because they are not as good as people are saying they are. Yeah. And we need to prove that they're not as good as they're saying they are by beating them. That's what we need to do right there. Yeah. So if I see the same front 3 against Leeds, I'm going to lose my mind. If I see the same front 3 for the next 3 games that we see, then they're still not performing, I will question the manager, because he's going to lose us points. So what we need to see is a solution. There's solutions there on the bench. Yeah. They might not come off, but find the solutions. That's your job. If you have to change the formation and go 4-2-3-1, if you have to change to 4-3-3, if you have to keep the 3 at the back but change your partnership at the top, a bit like we did in the Europa League where we were going with a Lacazette partnership, or maybe it be a Pepe and Oba partnership. Try something different and let's see what this manager has got, because he is clearly very talented. He is. Yeah, he's a young head coach. He's learned off of a great manager. He's got a great footballing brain. He's intelligent on the pitch. Prove it and get us back to winning ways, because there are players in that team that can keep us clean 3 points. And the last thing I want to say on this, because there has been times we have not finished our dinner. This is an unpopular opinion, right? But in every single game so far, we have created, and apparently we have created enough chances to take 3 points in every single one of these games. Okay. But we have not, because we have not finished our dinner. And you can go right the way back throughout them. West Ham and Sheffield United aside, we had Liverpool with Lacazette going through and messing up against Alisson. We had Saka with a great save from Ederson. We had Aubameyang, who wasn't offside, great save from Ederson. This is in the Man City game. Then, of course, we go to the Leicester game. But Lacazette was 3 yards out with a header and missed. So different game completely. Saka has another one. We go against Manchester United. Saka misses with a free header. Willian hits the bar. Aubameyang just gets there too late. Lacazette misses his chance. These chances, for me, when put away, when on form, we would not be in this situation. I would be saying how fantastic Arteta is, because we've won every single one of those games. So that's how close football is. Yeah. The other night we see it with Holding on Sunday. We see it with Holding. How did he miss that? Lacazette again, a free header. This could be 2-1. That could be 2-1 to Arsenal, and it's a completely different game. So I'm not going to lose my head on this, but I need to make this clear. I do not want to see that front 3 when they're not performing every single game. That's the way I see it. Got to finish our din-dins, as Nadine has just said.
Yeah, Nadine just said. Very well put, Dan. Very well put. Love that. Love that analogy as well. Great stuff. Casey, got Based
look.
kind of going round to what I said and then coming to Dan's comments about that.
Yeah, look, I think where we all want consistency, we all want to see the team doing well. What I didn't like what you said, Sophie, was if we lose badly to Spurs. Oh no, I don't like
I know.
that.
I cringed when I said. I wanted to punch myself in the face when I said that.
That's why I was like, time out. Don't say that. Look, me personally, I think the Leeds game is the key. Because let me tell you something. Leeds are going to come to kill. They're going to come to kill us. And if we're not at it, we're going to get done. I'm telling you now. Leeds are no joke. The way they play, the energy they've got, if we don't match them, if we don't get in their faces like Mikel Arteta wants, we're in for a hell of a tough game. We saw what Leeds done in the FA Cup last year at the Emirates. You remember? First half, they created enough chances to win 3 games. They couldn't finish. We came back second half, adjusted, and I think it was 2-0. We ended up beating them pretty convincingly in the second half. But now they're a Premier League team. Now they're a more serious outfit this season. And they're proven that they could beat Premier League. Look, they went to Anfield, scored 3 goals at Anfield. Liverpool got lucky with another dubious penalty. So, you know, this team is for real. So, Mikel Arteta,
let's not forget as well, KC, that Arteta's coming up against his teacher's teacher, because that's what Marco Bielsa is.
Yeah.
That is what he is.
And again, Dan, and Sophie, it boils down to this. Will Mikel Arteta be ruthless enough to make the adjustments in that Arsenal team to get us going again? It's so important.
It is
so important.
Let me leave you guys with this thought. It's been a brilliant show. I love this dialogue, and everyone in chat has been enjoying it too. Some great questions coming through. Hopefully I put all of your comments up. We're doing a fan Q&A show on Thursday, you guys. So all these questions that you've been asking, we've answered some of them in previous pods, so we don't want to kind of repeat them. But on Thursday, we're going to do a fan show, which is just all about you. And I'll send out details on Twitter about that and how you can participate in that too. So it's going to be basically your show. So here's what I hope as we talk about Arteta versus Emery. I think we will all agree on one thing with Emery. That 4-2 against Spurs was the best.
You know it.
I'm getting chills. I want to cry just thinking about it.
Especially them going 2-0 up. Ooh.
I mean, my hair's gone up.
2-1. Loved it.
It was, and this, I think, and it won't have the same impact because the fans won't be there, but it will in our living rooms, and it will wherever we are together or apart. And I think that is the moment that Arsenal fans are waiting for Arteta in the Premier League. Manchester United maybe would have felt a little bit different if they were still Manchester United on top, because one of the biggest arguments about Arsenal is how we've been unable to get results against the top 6 sides. We did that against Manchester United, and whether we like it or not, it was after a 14-year barren period, and it was a great result for us, but it was against the weakest Manchester United team. But for Arteta to have a signature moment like that at this point and stifle Spurs, who are second in the league. Of course, we got to get past Liverpool and Leeds and Wolves first. But that moment, Dan, and I'll let KC have the last word, if he can emulate something like that, I think he gets the 50-50 split, becomes everyone's on board again, even though I think most people will be. That's the moment I would love to see for Arteta.
Beating the rivals is all important, isn't it? It's so important. But you know what, Sophie? It's all about the Gunners. It's all about the Arsenal. And we love them. So come on, you Gunners. Come on.
Dan, by the way, Dan, I mean, Torreira, I know he's not with the club anymore, but forever will be in our hearts for that goal. That was unbelievable, right?
It was outstanding. I mean, listen, I was in that end. That's where I sit at the Emirates. So I'm in the North Bank by the corner flag. So loving that goal. ripped his shirt off. That was one of his best ever games in an Arsenal shirt, by the way. He just dominated that match. Absolutely superb. And I had a bit of a soft spot for him, not just because of that, but I actually quite liked Lucas Torreira. But as far as I'm concerned, mate, if we can have any kind of result like that, I will take it. I love beating them. I can't accept a loss. I'll tell you this now.
I would love it if we beat them. I would love it.
You know it.
Dan, tell everyone where they can find you and where they can listen to you. Great stuff from you tonight. Let the Arsenal universe know where they can find you.
Bless you. Well, listen, thank you for both having me on, man. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've loved it. It's been a great rant, great chat. Great to hear you two arguing. I know there's a lot of love there. But if anyone wants to come and follow me personally on Twitter, it's at DanArsenal87. And if anyone wants to come and follow myself, Lee Judges, Harry Simu, Craig Scott, Graham Brooks, or Mark Partridge, it's at the same old AFC. Same old Arsenal every Monday night, and the same old Arsenal team talk, which I run on Friday evenings to preview the show, preview the games for the weekend. But thank you both so much.
Oh, you're welcome. We love the guys
one,
at Same Old
top
Arsenal.
Man, top man.
Yeah, top podcast. And
top
Casey.
show,
Yeah, so great. The guys over there are great, and they've always been good to us too. So thank you very much, Dan. We will be talking to you again during our lockdown series. I know it. I'm rustling something special up for him, Casey. I'll let you know about it.
He needs something special after taking off that beard.
Oh man, I'll tell you, I feel naked with it, Casey. I need it to come back, man. I need it to come back. It's all for a good cause, then, man. So.
Are you growing it again? Yeah, you're growing it again.
Yeah, it will come back, man.
Nice
it will come back.
Nice.
All right. And KC, we will be back tomorrow with Mr. Lee Judges for our 5 things, and I am looking forward.
At 4 o'clock, 4 p.m. English time.
4
o'clock. I'm looking forward to that one.
Yep. And until then, KC, let the world know what.
It's always the Arsenal. Always.